demands are from one area to another.
Okay. How many days a week do you haul?
Typically, and Mr. Thorson could provide more information on that as he's in charge of the hauling, but you know, if other than inclement weather, I would say we probably would haul 5 days a week.
Okay. During what hours?
I don't know. Mr. Thorson could address that.
And do you know the route that would be taken in order to haul Bentonnite from the Perko Amendment area?
Yes, I do.
And what is that route?
That would be from the road that is illustrated on the map. That is a mine development, crude mine development road that a mile or so beyond the edge of the map here, that road intersects with, I believe, what you refer to as the Wall Creek Road or the Tisdale Mountain Oilfield Road.
Tisdale.
Pardon me?
What was that, Tisdale?
That would connect this mine road that services the Perko Amendment, proceeds north, perhaps a mile and a half, and it would intersect with what is known as either the Wall Creek Road or the Tisdale Mountain Oilfield Road. And then that road proceeds north to the old two-lane highway adjacent to Interstate 25. And then once the trucks entered onto the two-lane highway, they would proceed just a little bit farther north to the Powder River Road exit on I-25, which is approximately 5 or 6 miles south of Casey, Wyoming.
In order to haul Bentonnite from the Perko Amendment area, how many total miles of surface would be covered by trucks on the 3T Ranch surface?
I don't know.
Did anyone ever determine that?
Not that I'm aware of.
Why not?
It may be detailed in the mine plan. There's a detailed section which discusses access and haulage.
There's no description of the number of miles in the mine plan that will be traversed by any of the haul trucks going in and out of the Perko Amendment area. True?
True, but that's not required by the permit application.
Okay, but you would agree that dust associated with truck traffic would be affecting the surface lands on the TTT Ranch throughout that entire stretch, true?
Not necessarily.
Why not?
It would depend on the time of year. There's little dust in the wintertime. We do.
In fact, isn't it true that Black Hills Bentonnite has no plan or description within their mine plan for dust control?
It's not required by the permit.
That's not my question. There is nothing in this mine plan that discusses mine or dust control. True?
Mr. Klosterman, you're straying out of what we can consider. We can't consider the future mine plan. We can only consider the application.
Sir, did you ever contact anyone from the TTT Ranch to find out what their proposed use of this Perko Amendment area was or is?
No.
Why not?
I believe that 33 years I've been working in the area, I felt I had a pretty good general knowledge of what the use of the land is on the Perko Amendment.
Don't you have to, as part of this, determine what the surface owner's proposed use of that land is going to be into the future?
No, I don't believe so.
That's not what one of the requirements says?
I don't believe so.
It only talks about past use. Is that your understanding?
It requires a statement of the post-mining land uses.
What is feasibly possible with respect to Black Hills Bentonnite's reclamation plan for the Herco Amendment area?
I think given the nature of the soils and vegetation on the Herco Amendment, it's probably some of the better soils and vegetation of most areas that we mine on the 3T Ranch. I think there's a high potential for successful reclamation to meet the post-mining land use.
What does it mean as soon as feasibly possible? Did you make a determination as to when the reclamation could be completed as it relates to whether it's as soon as feasibly possible?
We would try to advance the mining and reclamation as quickly as possible.
Okay. That's not been the historical track record of Black Hills Bentonnite with regards to reclamation, has it?
Well, again, we're getting astray on what's happened in the past and what's outside the Herco Amendment. I'm not sure what relevancy it has.
If I may, it's certainly relevant to talk about Black Hill Bentonnite's past practices, their history, their routine, their practices to determine whether or not their proposed reclamation plan has any potential of being done as soon as feasibly possible. I think there's direct relevance to show that, in fact, their course of conduct, their practice, their habit is certainly not to reclamate as soon as feasibly possible.
I understand Mr. Crossingham's frustration with past mines on his property, but we can only make a determination on this current amendment, and we do understand. We've heard several times what their historical use is. I think we understand that at this point.
So you were asked some questions, Mr. Lawson, in regards to the right to mine within the Herco Amendment area. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And you talked about that there are essentially Herco minerals that were obtained by the Black Hills Bentonnite, correct?
Correct.
And I would like to refer to, this is figure 2 in the report of Mr. Alan Rabinoff. Did I say that correctly? Rabinoff. And this is part of Petitioner's Exhibit 38. Have you ever seen Mr. Rabinoff's report?
No, I have not.
And I guess if we're going to talk about the exhibit, I'd like to have it admitted.
Well, I'd like to show him this figure that's part of his report, and I have no objection to making this an exhibit.
Well, I don't think I would object to just one page of his report because his report explains it.
I was going to say I would admit the entire document and not just part of it if it's available.
Okay. All right, so you will be admitting then what's marked as Petitioner's Exhibit 38. Is that true? Is that your ruling, I guess? I want to understand.
Yes, yeah, I would admit the entire exhibit and not just part of it.
All right, and if I could direct you, Mr. Lawson, and also members of the council to figure 2 of this report. And can I hand this to you? All right. And what is written on exhibit number 42 is we have the Herco minerals, right? Which is in this is in section 2, right? This would be the southeast quarter of section 2, township 41 north, range 81 west, correct?
Yes.
And then also part of the Herco minerals are the northeast quarter of section 11 in township 41 north, range 81 west, correct?
Correct.
And then in this portion, we have the TTT number 10, correct?
Correct.
That's in section or portions of section 11, correct?
Correct.
And the TTT number 10 was assigned to the Black Hills Bentonnite, and that is subject to the termination date of May 1st, 2020, correct?
Correct.
And then below that, we have the Bobcat number 10, which would be in the, I guess, south half of section 11,
Southeast
or southeast quarter of the section 11, township 41 north, range 81 west. True?
Correct.
All right. And this Bobcat number 10 claim is, there is a lease agreement between you and Black Hills Bentonnite, correct?
Correct.
So you have asserted that you had the legal right to mine, you had a mining claim for the area that's described as Bobcat number 10, correct?
Correct.
And do you recall back in 2008 writing a letter to the attorney for TTT about your intent with regards to locating a claim on the TTT ranch?
I was told that attorney did not represent Mr. Crossingham in that matter.
Is it true that you wrote a letter to the Crossingham attorney, Mr. Don Chapin, back in 2008 with respect to you locating
I did.
the Bobcat number 10?
Yes, I did.
Exhibit D, or 4, has that been admitted?
Yes. Or-
Exhibit number 4, TTT number 4. This is a letter that you wrote to Mr. Chapin on April 22nd of 2008, correct?
Correct.
All right. And the purpose of that letter is you specifically advised Mr. Chapin that in regards to locating mineral claims, that you had no intent of ever mining those claims. True?
Yes, I'm not a mining company.
Okay. And as such, you would not be able to locate a claim where you never had the intent to actually explore for and mine minerals on that location. True?
No.
Okay. Are you familiar with the requirements under 30 CFR in regards to the ability to locate a claim when you have no intent to ever mine?
Again, Madam Chair, I think we're getting astray of the requirements here.
Well, and we have no legal ability to make legal judgments on access in this case, in this area. Mr. Klosterman, what element are you going to here?
This goes to the fundamental issue of whether or not, if you have a deficient mining claim or application for a mining permit, whether or not this council can then give consent in lieu of the surface owner's consent where there's an issue or dispute with regards to the legal title or the legal right to mine.
And could I respond to that?
Yeah.
Madam? I did object to the whole priority of claims issue because it is not included in those elements. Again, there are more or less civil issues that have to be resolved, or they may be resolved through the application process by the DEQ. But it really does not, who has the priority of the mine claims, whether Mr. Lawson's claim is good or valid or not, does not necessarily go to these. Yes, Mr. Rabinoff prepared this report, but as I said, I don't think it's relevant to the issues that we're here to talk about today. We simply address those issues out of an abundance of caution because I don't know exactly, how far you would get into it. And so it's a defense to their claims as opposed to, the relevancy to these issues.
Madam Chair, I'm looking at the law, and we're talking about this hearing is about subsection B, Romanet 12. The issue of deficiency is determined by the administrator in subsection H after they determine that everything is in the application. What's missing from the application now is of the consent of all of them. So the DEQ has not had an opportunity yet to even make that decision. It will be, the word deficiency is right in here at section 8. So
Yeah, no, I was going, this is a decision that the DEQ has to make. This piece we can't make a decision on or take into consideration. This is the piece the DEQ has to address.
Okay. Mr. Lawson, in your April 22nd, 2008 letter to Mr. Chapin, did you state, quote, "I will not be conducting any exploration activities on these lands, nor do I have any plans to develop any minerals on these claims should they exist"?
Mr. Klosterman, we can't rule on whether or not this is a legitimate claim or not.
I'm asking him simply whether or not that is a statement that he made in his April 22nd, 2008 letter to Attorney Don Chapin.
I'll let him answer this, and then we need to go a different way that addresses these four elements.
Yes.
And that included the Bobcat number 10 placer mining claim, true?
Yes.
With respect to the mining sequence for the Herco Amendment area, it is true, is it not, that the proposed sequence is to include a direct backfill sequence where you're making a mine cut, then backfilling a previous with overburden, and then subsequently at a later time taking another cut, then backfilling, and waiting until you've completed the entire cut before you replace the topsoil and do any seeding. Isn't that true?
There's two instances in the mine plan where we do have a multiple cut sequence.
And to do the multiple cut sequence, you could, as a company, elect to do all of it at once rather than do it in multiple cuts. True?
Not necessarily.
For these areas where these multiple cuts are going to occur, you could mine that entire area at one time, then refill it with the overburden topsoil, and then reclaim it as soon as feasibly possible. True?
No.
Okay. Did you put that in your reclamation plan as to why you couldn't do that?
It wasn't a requirement.
So you don't let the surface owner know that about why it is that you cannot do a entire pit cut at one time rather than doing it sequentially over a number of years.
That was never a question raised by the surface owner.
Well, how would they know it unless you told them?
We presented a mine plan.
Okay.
The nature of the mining is such that based on the size of the equipment that we use in terms of scrapers, we have 627s, they're the smallest scraper, one small scrapers, D8s. Additionally, if we were to do that, we would have to create a much larger overburden stockpile area. So we would increase our surface disturbance area on the landowner. So what we've done there is try to develop pit sizes that are manageable in terms of the mining equipment we utilize and our ability to field dry. This is not just the only location that we mine in the Kesey area. So our heavy equipment fleet is scattered far and wide. So we may be able to commit all of our equipment to this and get it done in a short period of time. But we developed that mine plan in order to, one, minimize the surface disturbing activities, one, in terms of creating smaller overburden stockpile areas. But that mine scenario will advance very well just due to the fact that we only have two instances. Well, in a sense, these are both direct backfill multiple cut pits where we have two pits adjacent to each other. But this series of pits here actually is, in a sense, a multiple cut series. This pit will backfill that pit, this pit will backfill that pit, this pit will backfill that pit, and then this overburden will backfill that pit. So it's a clean process.
And what you've testified earlier is that all of that could be done. All of these sequential pit cuts can be done in 1 year.
In order to meet the deadline of the lease.
And so that was not, so you said that you can get all of that done within 1 year, right?
Possibility.
Okay. Yet your mine permit application goes all the way until 2020, correct?
Yes.
So you really didn't need that amount of time.
But yes, we do.
You've told us that you only need 1 year to complete it.
I said there's a possibility that we may be able to do that.
Did you put that in the mine plan that you could complete all of these mining operation tasks within 1 year?
No,
Why not?
because we had a different mine plan.
A different mine plan from what? The one that you gave to the crossing hands?
Yes.
Okay. So have we been all looking at the wrong mine plan?
No, I think we at Black Hills Bentonnite were attempting to brainstorm how we could complete mining on a lease that's going to expire in 2020, but at this point in time, because we don't have a Form 8, till we have a Form 8, land quality cannot begin review of the amendment application. We simply don't know when we will be given approval to begin mining. So in that scenario, if it's 2019, we've got a very short period of time to complete the mining.
But the actual work that would be performed to complete the mining operations can be done in 1 year, no matter when you start. That's your testimony.
There's a possibility of that.
But you did not state that in your mine plan.
No.
Mr. Cluster, we can't analyze the sufficiency of the mine plan. All we can do is certify that the mine plan has been given to the landowner. The sufficiency of the mine plan is the decision of the DEQ.
But certainly, the detail that is required in order for the surface owner to make an informed decision about whether he's going to give consent or not is part of the requirement. It has to be detailed enough, and that's why I'm exploring what were the actual details that were put into the mine plan to determine whether or not consent in lieu of should be given. I think it's only fair that we should explore the deficiencies to show how it wasn't detailed, and therefore the surface owner had a proper basis or reason for not giving his or her consent.
And I would respond that it's a red herring. You know, it's like picking up pieces of hair off the floor, you know, the kind of detail that they're asking about. Sure, you can always find something that, you know, they didn't talk about, but, you know, had we heard something from Mr. Crossingham, certainly they'd be happy to talk about it or provide it.
Madam Chair, I see what they're trying to do, you know, and I guess my concern is we only need to hear the question and answer once.
Right, that's what I was going to say to Mr. Klosterman is, I'll give you a couple more questions, but really, we understand what you're trying to say, and, you know, we'd like to get as much information as possible, and
Okay. Just a few more questions, and I know we want to take a break.
Okay.
I'm going to have to go. I apologize to both parties. I'm on a schedule I cannot get out of. So I'm willing to listen to it on video, catch up, or feel like you have a 4-vote majority. I will leave it in your capable hands. At that point, my vote will be irrelevant, or I will catch up. And once I see it, I'll be ready to vote in a couple of days. I know everybody, the sooner you get your decision, the better. So again, I apologize.
thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Lawson, does Black Hills Bentonnite have access to the Herco Amendment area from the south?
No, we don't.
Did Black Hills Bentonnite in 2017 obtain road easements from Emmerich Huber and Mike Tobin?
I know we did obtain road easements from Mr. Huber and Mr. Tobin, but I'm not sure the date of those.
And those road agreements come from the Tisdale Mountain Road, which is south of the Herco Amendment area, true?
That's correct.
Okay. And you can obtain access to the Herco Amendment through those road agreements that you've obtained with other landowners, correct?
I guess I'm going to object again to this. I'm not sure where it's going. There's no requirement that if they have other access, they have to use it, although the testimony would be that they do not have access to it already.
Mr. Osterman?
This goes once again to the use. So we've heard testimony that they're saying they have to come in through this Wall Creek Road, talk about the types of egress and ingress that they have. I'm asking simply, do they have a direct route to get to this area from the Tisdale Mountain Road, which would significantly change the amount of impact on the TTT Ranch surface by using access that they already have through other landowners?
And Mr. Lawson answered it and he said, no, they don't.
Have you seen the actual road agreements with Mr. Huber and Mr. Tobin?
Yes.
Okay. And can you describe for us?
Excuse me, Madam Chair. Again, it has no relevance to these elements.
Mr. Klosterman, again, we can't address the route of ingress and egress, only that there is a route of ingress and egress. I understand that more trucks will cause more impacts. We all understand that, and we'll take that into consideration. And I feel like once a question's been asked and answered, that's probably sufficient.
What we've heard, Madam Chairman, is that according to this witness, Mr. Lawson, they're saying that they have legal access to the Herco Amendment going north all the way through the TTT ranch with no substantiation and no proof of that. And the one road surface agreement that they did produce, they didn't even show the exhibits to that showing how their access is limited to only spurs off of this Wall Creek Road. So we're hearing that they're saying we do have ingress and egress access, when in fact I should be able to explore whether or not they have a different route which would substantially reduce the amount of impact on our surface estate. And if you want me to move forward, I will, but I believe it's directly relevant to his direct testimony saying they already have this through some historical use of the road.
I'll let you go a little bit further, but don't get too far off track.
Okay. So could you please show us then where it is that the road access Black Hills Bentonnite has that it obtained from Emmerich Huber and Mike Tobin?
It's not illustrated entirely on the map, so it'd be very difficult to show that.
How much closer is it to this Herco Amendment area than if you had to come through the north that you described earlier in your testimony?
I don't know.
Significantly different as far as the amount of road use. Would you agree with that?
No.
Because you don't know, or because you can tell that there is in fact a difference?
There would be quite a bit of difference in that the less impact from the trucks because they would be on paved roads more. They'd be on the interstate.
No, I'm talking about through the TTT ranch.
So
there's no paved roads, is there?
No, but I'm talking about currently the trucks travel on I-25, Interstate Highway 25, to the South Fork Powder River Road exit. So they spend a lot more time on paved surfaces, which creates no dust whatsoever.
Okay, south of the exit from I-25 at the South
Fork
Fork
Powder
of the
River exit.
There is in fact an exit from I-25 that's called the Tisdale Mountain Road, true?
True.
Right. So you wouldn't have to drive substantially farther north. You could actually get off on the Tisdale Road, take a much shorter access to get to this Herco Amendment area than you would having to go further north, get off, and then drive all the way through the Tisdale or through the 3T Ranch. True?
Perhaps.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Okay, I think we will break for an hour for lunch, come back at 1:45, and then we'll do council questions and redirect.
Numbers. That being that one of the major things not exposed. We figured it out. We've got a Wi-Fi. No, we've got a Wi-Fi download speed of 3.1 megabytes per second. So it's not, it may be, these may contribute to the spaces that are age. The biggest reason is that guy right there. He's only kicking out 3.1 megabits per second.
And so, and that's, yes, you don't have to see.
Just like the Right, well, it's not gonna be in here ever again, but then this thing will go down. Will either be, the next meeting will either be a Game and Fish Lake Library, or it could be a fourth place, but those are our three primary places for shooting.
I'm